In the top four most greenhouse gas emitting industries, buildings are always second or third. By 2050, expected infrastructure in developing world, 70% of it is not built, which means it's not just the science and the knowledge we have today, which is the impact, importance of building, but the potential to do it right. So the amount of concrete we're going to pour from now till 2034, just India, it is an absolutely absurd, a number you can't put your head around. And I'll tell you why. And that's why I use the term pouring concrete. 85 to 90% of the building's carbon footprint is in cement, steel, and concrete. Buildings also have the highest greenhouse gas mitigation potential for the least capital. Even solar water heating as a mandate, which government asks in a city like Bangalore, which is solar water heating capital of the country. We are phenomenally good, yet the mandate is so flaky. It says top one floor should have solar water heating in an apartment community. Gruha is India's self-created, our own internal ranking system. If you ask me to be brutally honest, Gruha is better than IGBC because it understands local challenges better and it's more regionalized in that sense. A city like Bangalore, the government mandates are fairly high. One of the best in the country we have in Bangalore. For example, when it comes to rainwater, water heating, waste management, all these things, we're pretty good. For a very small delta increment from what a builder is spending, they could get IGBC. This industry is known for finding cutting corners, and that's the problem. Food is the second one where people are willing to spend up to 10% higher margin, and in cases 25% margin when they know it's an organic or environmentally sustainable, which means there are indicators where good quality, higher price is possible. We recently with a builder in Bangalore and one in Kochi also, they were so willing that on the site we tested a new material. Buyers, if they are made aware with the right information, they wouldn't question. It's the builder and the structural engineer who are the most scared because their neck is on line. So the direct tangible financial benefit of living in a sustainable house for the buyer is coming from when the operational carbon focus is there. I'll give you umpteen examples where they actually willingly pay extra to get the benefit. And just for your listeners or consumers, every degree, your electricity bill goes up roughly by 4%.
If you live in a city, chances are that you're listening to this podcast in a building. 8 hours a day, if you're working in a city, you're probably sitting in a building. And then you probably go out somewhere into a building. And then you come back home and sleep in a building. So most of the time in cities, you're spending time in buildings unless you go out into the wilderness. But you're probably not camping and in a resort, again in a building. A lot of human life is spent in buildings. And we talk about carbon and energy and going net zero and causing harm to the planet. The amount of time we spend in buildings, we should be looking at our buildings and saying, is that the elephant in the room which can help us go net zero or low carbon or save the environmental damage that we are causing? We speak with Sriram Kuchimanchi of Smarter Dharma to find out what is happening with buildings, how do we look at them, as buyers and as people who live in buildings, do we even know what we are getting into? And how does this translate to the environmental goals that we have set for ourselves? I am Sathya Sankaran, and you are listening to the OoruLabs podcast. Thanks for joining, Sriram.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, Sathya. I'm excited. I really look forward to this.
In India, I was just reading a little earlier before you came on that buildings account for over 40% of the country's total energy consumption. And they are also responsible for 40% of the total carbon emissions. They are also responsible for 30% of solid waste and 20% of water effluents. See, a lot of us kind of live and work inside these buildings, right? I mean, when we go to work and we are sitting right now inside buildings, and the rest of them who are not in the buildings are probably constructing something like a building, in the cities at least, right? So how should we look at the role of the buildings? We are always surrounded by them.
Yeah.
What is the role of buildings in our chase to become like what we call environment friendly, at least in the urban areas?
Yeah. Actually, I just want to reiterate on what you said, because many times people don't understand the power of the importance of buildings, right? So what you said, in the top four most greenhouse gas emitting industries, buildings are always second or third. Mm-hmm. The others being energy, transportation, and agriculture. So buildings are pretty high in terms of overall environmental impact. So the numbers you said meet. But And this is the crux of it, right? Buildings are there, and buildings will continue to. There's some statistic, and with little percentage difference here and there, that by 2050, expected infrastructure in developing world, Asia and Southeast Asia, etc., 70% of it is not built. Which means it's not just the science and the knowledge we have today, which is the impact, importance of building, but the potential to do it right. So Western world, forget beating them up for a lot of other things. They did not know at that time when they were building this much knowledge. So they built, and so a lot of developed world is busy trying to retrofit existing buildings, which is mandate work, right? You could do some work. So I want to reiterate that you're absolutely right. Buildings play a huge role in the whole climate change story. And the argument, a country like India, like the numbers you gave, actually is not just India. The 40% and 40% energy, 40% carbon is global. The numbers vary here and there, but overall that's the same. Now, in India now, I mean, if we were just looking at some numbers for our own planning, by 2034, we are supposed to build 100 million new homes. 100 million new homes. And so 100 million new homes, just if you do a back of the hand calculation and say on an average it's 800 or 1000 square feet. Just imagine 800 square feet into a million. That is the built up area just on houses. And then if you add all the other things, it's 1000, 1200 square feet times a million, 100 million is the amount of built up area just in residential. And now to that you connect all the other things. Now you need, hotels, hospitals, restaurants, metro stations. So the amount of concrete we're going to pour from now till 2034, just India, it is an absolutely absurd, a number you can't put your head around. And I'll tell you why. And that's why I use the term pouring concrete. Because 85 to 90% of the building's carbon footprint is in cement, steel, and concrete. And most of the buildings are still built on with that technology, right? Now, some of us, we're chatting about, how do we get back some mud construction? And there's a lot of discussion on that, and we'll get to it later. But yeah, I'm just using this to reiterate that all numbers are pointing to a huge increase on environmental impact of buildings. So focusing on buildings, there can't be a better time and more focus needed than on buildings. The good thing now, I've given you all this. Now the other side, which is very empowering, why folks like Smarter Dharma and others are working, is unlike the other four industries, buildings also have the highest greenhouse gas mitigation potential for the least capital.
How's that?
It's because energy, agri, and transportation, as the service is delivered, the resource is consumed instantly. Like you generate energy is consumed, it's over. You burn coal, it's supplied to you, you use it, right? Instantly it's over. Buildings, you build it once, it lives for 53 years. So the entire operational carbon which could have been created if you lived in a carbon neutral house, over 53 years, one individual's entire house domestic carbon footprint is nullified, which would have happened any other house you would have lived, it would have been there, right? So the power, that's why they said over a period of time, unlike other industries where the resource is consumed instantly, buildings have the highest mitigation potential for the least capital. Now, if you put these two together, every progressive company trying to make money as well as impact should look at construction industry in some form or fashion, because the world is going to build a lot. You have the highest impact potential. So this could be a great way of making a big impact.
There must be some standards in this game, right? I heard of the Bureau of Energy Efficiency trying to put out some standards. There's something called building codes. There are so many IGBC. There are hundreds of alphabet soup of standards that are around in the whole building space. And also, if you look at it, they say the standard should be ideally you should be at some 15 kilowatt hour per square meter per year or some such thing, right? I don't know where we are at. And if you multiply that by 100 million, we're looking at mind-boggling gigawatts of energy, right? So what are the standards? Are there any? How should a person like me understand these standards? Is it evolving? Has it become better? Are there more standards? And is anybody, the next question that follows is, tell me about standards, then we'll see who's actually following it or not.
Yeah. So there are standards of multiple kinds. You named some of them, right? There is NBC, which is National Building Code. National Building Code is the standard which has been set in India, and I wouldn't say it's up to date and latest. We've always argued that it could be better, but okay, so it's there. There is National Building Code standard set. Every builder is mandated to follow that. So all architects, the MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing consultants, structural engineers, they all follow things from that. For example, every household, every individual, like you and I, in our day, in the morning from when we brush teeth to the night before we sleep, we are supposed to use 135 liters per capita per day.
LPCD.
135 LPCD, right? Now, that's the National Building Code standard. Meaning, if you go above, they don't stop you, because you could say that, look, I'm building a luxury house, and I can give you, without naming names, there are hotels I know where per room per night is like 1800 liters.
Wow.
So insane, right? The luxurious it is, which is so stupid. Luxurious it is, the more inefficient it is. But okay. Other end though is the scary part, where the codes are not good enough for counters. What I mean is, we have worked on a project where 100 LPCD was designed for, with buffer 110, and the data proves that actually consumption is efficient. A city like Bangalore residents are also fairly conscious about it, right? But the Pollution Control Board, which is the next big standards agency, will come and say, I'm calculating sewage treatment plant for this community of 100 apartments at certain size, and that size calculation is based on every person using 135 plus buffer of 10, about 150. And even if you tell them, no, we have reduced it, here's proof, here's data, they're like, I don't know, what if they use? So this is our code, our standard is you have to do. What they don't understand is, now if I have to build for 150, I have to use extra concrete, which we spoke of earlier, right? Embodied carbon. Builder spends more money. You're actually building a STP for more water than it needs. So inherently, it is inefficient a little. So all this buys side impact from the standard or not. So to answer your question, NBC is a standard, but it's not evolving to the updates, right? Multiple things are there. For example, treated water sewage treatment. Once the water is treated, they're saying without treating, you cannot let it out, which is a great rule, right? Great. Now they're saying, if in a community, I'm giving a lot of residential examples. A very similar situation is in other kind of buildings also, right? Residential being the big thing, I'm using that. They say that excess treated water cannot be used into ground. Now, what else will I do? You won't let me go out. I have used it to the maximum. I have to either force my residents to not drink it, or just use it for some drink, meaning treat it further, RO it and treat it. But we are saying, a city like Bangalore again, you want to recharge the ground. And if this is post-treated water, where BOD, COD are under 20, it meets the standard which PCB asks, why can't we? So the argument from the government comes and says, PCB says, how do I know they're treating it really well? I won't have control. I will not let alone. So you see, in this one case, I actually feel bad for PCB. They're right. They don't have control over it, right? I could overnight, we've had cases in 2015 where we studied about 110 STPs in Whitefield. 110 STPs. I myself went over 45 of them. And a lot of them, in the night, untreated water, they were letting go. Some very big names in the city, Sathya, you won't believe it. One of the more affluent side of the city. And we've had enough run-ins and we got to know the data. Point is, hence PCB will say no. But imagine if we had enough technology, and I believe tech should play a role in this, where we monitor, etc., and ensure that the right quality of water goes. Our stress in a city like Bangalore, where water is not sufficient, will be addressed. So this is one side, right? National Building Code, Pollution Control Board, these guys are certain. The other standards which come from, I spoke water a little. Energy comes from something called EPI, Energy Performance Index, and that is measured in kilowatts, units per square meter per year. Right, and that number varies for. We have actually fine-grained numbers in that. We'll say a residential, small building, residential building, individual house, small commercial, big commercial, hotel, different numbers vary. People have found innovative ways. I would say for anybody listening, if they ever want to know one of the most sustainable building from energy point of view, they should go to Infosys buildings from a commercial. There is no building like, especially building 4 in Infosys office, stands out for the way it is, right? So there are those which is at least 35 to 40% more efficient than almost any other tech park in the country, or they claim in the world, but at least country for sure. So EPI is the other one. Then it gets a little difficult. It starts getting a little flaky. For the listeners who are buying a house, or or even looking at apartment, the OC, occupancy certificate, it has certain mandates. It will say very flaky mandate saying solar. You should show some solar water heating. You should show some solar PV. Some is a horrible way to do, right? Even solar water heating as a mandate, which government asks in a city like Bangalore, which is solar water heating capital of the country, honestly, right? We are phenomenally good, yet the mandate is so flaky. It says top one floor should have solar water heating in an apartment community. Now, are you saying all bathrooms? Are you saying one bathroom? Are you saying it should only be solar water heating? You can't do any. So why can I do two? So there are a lot of gray area there, right? We say that, and I think this is the way to do, right? We should go back and to the government agencies who are doing this policy and say, here's data of a bunch of projects with which we'll prove to you that 110 LPCD is possible, or 3 floors is possible. Technology is there. Some of these were formed long ago. Because from top floor, if you have to get solar water heated water to second, 2 floors below, the technology at that time, we didn't have enough to keep the water hot enough. As a pipe where the water descends, it could be, cold enough to heat it, inefficiency. You could argue a lot on technology there, but now enough insulated piping systems and all are there. So there are ways to do. Last thing as an example, okay. Then you talked about certification thing, right? We have something called IGBC, correct. Indian Green Building Council. Indian Green Building Council came up from what was the parent rating agency in the world called US Green Building Council. They were from the United States, and they were the first one called LEED, Leadership in Energy and Environment Design. They came in and they expanded into different countries have picked up. India is one of the leading countries in the world who picked up IGBC and created our own rating system. Then there's something called Griha. Griha is India's self-created, our own internal ranking system. If you ask me to be brutally honest, Griha is better than IGBC in terms of the strength and closeness, and because it understands local challenges better, and it's more regionalized in that sense. For example, one of the challenges most of the rating systems have is, let's say I'm building 200 apartments in a 2-acre piece of land of exactly same size. One project in Guwahati, one in Bangalore, one in Tiruvananthapuram, one in Ahmedabad, one in Delhi. If I do the same solutions, I actually will get the same points in an IGBC or LEED. But I mean, you and I know logically, climate change, climate difference, weather patterns, rain, policy mandates, people's perception, everything is different. How can you have the same points? So GRA has to a degree done something. Now LEED is doing to a degree something. IGBC says they will not yet anything. We ourselves have been creating our own algorithm to also gauge design. But these are some of the agencies. And anybody buying a house, one thing they can look at is an IGBC building usually is a little more efficient than a non-IGBC building. Having said that, and last thing on certification is a city like Bangalore, the government mandates are fairly high. One of the best in the country we have in Bangalore. For example, when it comes to rainwater, water heating, waste management, all these things, we're pretty good. In fact, for a very small delta increment from what a builder is spending, they could get IGBC silver to IGBC gold from mandates if they're truly designed for mandate. If they're truly designed for mandate, then beyond a mandate about a small increment in their cost, they should be able to get IGBC gold. So those are the other things. Then there is a building schedule where all the material which goes into what can be used. Now that is one which uh, a lot of us are talking about needs to be updated, because some of the newer material we have now, this wall, cement and concrete and steel and bricks are used. These are material we've known from 60s, right? So that schedule, the update of schedule happens extremely rarely. It's worse than NCERT. So they have to do that. Now there are enough alternative material we have. That if they make it part of the schedule, we'll drop the word alternative and they'll become mainstream material. That's the schedule is again old. If that's updated, I think there's a huge option. So there are all these, and if you notice, they come from different sides. So there are some from the builder's point of view. I didn't talk to you about MOEF. Ministry of Environment and Forestry has its own mandates. The BDA, or the Urban Development Authority, MOEF is the mothership, and then all these guys can override for the local. Bangalore is one of the few cities which is as stringent as MOEF mostly. So these are all also have certain guidelines and requirements. But as you can see, some are from the builder side, some are from the architect side, some are from the certification side. So different sides there are. All these stakeholders, if they are aware, and most of them are aware, then naturally, if they follow, there's a decent size. This industry is known for finding cutting corners, and that's the problem.
So that's a good segue into what the builders are doing, and because there seems to be that these codes are not always updated. The government is a lag indicator of catching up with all these codes, and we are always fighting this battle. And on the ground, how the real estate behaves and how they set the standard. I don't see any advertisement on them trying to be carbon neutral or saying this is a net zero building. We've given you. I don't see that many advertisements. They will market the pleasures and the comforts, but not necessarily sell you on the basis of VR and. I mean, there are a few builders, the names. They're trying there. They may not be perfect, but at least they are having the sustainability thing, and they're starting off with that. It takes two to tango. The consumers also I just want the most comfortable thing, and I don't. So before we get to the consumer and how they should maybe choose for our own good, what are the builders doing? Are they even able to match up, or they are chasing something else? They're still chasing the glass buildings. I'm sure if you look at it, the sustainability might actually give them an edge, at least in the positioning. On the cost side, I don't know. Some of these materials might actually be more expensive, or they might look different and people might not buy. How are they thinking about it?
Yeah, so there are two sides of this. Let me answer before the cost one. Actually, cost is a big topic. I want to talk about that. So the cost is a tricky one, Satya, and this is a problem across any industry. Let's say I'll tell you that this is an organically, fair trade T-shirt, right? And it'll cost, another 15% extra as opposed to a normal T-shirt. That's it. When the moment we do that, this normal T-shirt, which is the conventional T-shirt, is at 500 rupees and this is 600 rupees. The first question is, oh, it's expensive. My argument whenever people say that is, are you comparing to the true cost? It's like this, right? There is a tile we know which uses carbon from smoke and the fine rubber which comes from cars and two-wheelers, that connected together and make tiles out of it. Okay, it's not an easy process to be able to capture carbon and crystallize it and then use it, right? It is a process of a lot of effort, but it's a significant reduction on the directly adding carbon into the atmosphere. So a product like that is going to cost more because of all the expenses, as opposed to if you compare to one of the standard in the market ceramic or vitrified tiles. There are brands around. I'm trying not to name any of the brands either way. So I'm just saying the good ones or the bad ones. But now if you compare these two products, you are not comparing apples to apples. Now the carbon tile is going to be expensive because it has all these other things to cater to. Now the ceramic or vitrified tile does not cater to all that. The price is the stringent measures which government could have also in if I'm setting up a factory, am I paying for the ecological and social impact I'm having because of my factory in and around where the tiles are manufactured, where the mining is happening, where the education of the kids where mining is happening. At the end of the life, the C&D waste which is generated, by the way, which is close to 500 million tons each year India generates. That C&D waste, is it ethically handled? If you tie all that, that is a true cost. We don't do that in most of the industries. Climate change always is struggling with this problem, from t-shirts to tiles to houses to boats to whatever, right? First and foremost, when we think that, yeah, but these are expensive, what can builders do? I actually think we compare it wrong. I know I'm being a little idealistic, almost bordering activism, but I think there are reasons why this happens. And this is core, and I was chatting the other day, right? Is this needn't be activistic. It sounds activistic, but this is reason is because if if these famous tile manufacturers they truly do that, and they go back to everybody and say this is the right price, and now you compare to something else, I'm taking care of all this, then people realize this is the new standard, and you pay that right price, then you realize that true sustainability is rather than say it's more expensive, it's more expensive because the current comparison is lower, which is incorrect, inaccurate comparison we're having. This is the actual cost of our living, and then we live with that to live harmonious in nature. If all the companies make products like that and explain and be transparent, and all of us are used to it, they will make money at that higher level. We'll earn at that higher level. Our cost of living will go up at a higher level, and whatever taxes, everything else has to fall into system will cater to that. Today, a small portion of a business, a small portion of the government, a small portion of citizens, a small portion of education system is talking about these things. So rest of the system, as long as the revenue my famous example always has been any of these famous t-shirt brands will say, I'll have 20 normal regular cotton t-shirts and I'll have one line which is organic fair trade cotton. It's a normal business thing, right? If these 19 lines are doing really well, business, the 20th one is a branding and a positioning thing. Even if it doesn't sell more than 50 t-shirts a month, but these 19 t-shirts are selling 10,000 t-shirts a month, my profit margins are all met. This is doing my branding margin. I will not focus on that. As long as I don't make it central to my business, I'm not actually making a difference, but I'm definitely making my money on that. But if it comes in and you make your new money, you can actually scale. I know I'm giving a long answer, but this is a problem I've been truly thinking. So anybody talks about cost, I'd like to articulate this with the hope that every place people do listen, and people should think about. Now here's the good news on this. I give t-shirt example as a way because across globe, this is one of the first industry where people are willing to spend. There are enough statistics to say 12 to 15% higher money for a sustainable product. The second industry, you'll be surprised that t-shirt became the first one. Second is food. People are willing to spend that extra as long as they trust that, hey, this is an organic, I don't know, coffee or whatever you eat, right? Fruits or something. Food is the second one where people are willing to spend up to 10% higher margin, and in cases 25% margin when they know it's an organic or environmentally sustainable, which means there are indicators where good quality, higher price is possible.
If it was impacting the health right now, like if I ate the bad food and I got cholesterol, the fear of death is always there. Building industry is slightly different in that. Okay, yeah. But the thing is, you live in this house for a long time, right? Sometimes through your life, you don't actually keep shifting houses unless you're on a rental property. Right. The harmful effects of that lives with you for a long time, like you said, 53 years instead of just consuming and moving away. But the builders also complain of this material in the supply chain is cheap. In the sense, not cheap. It's available readily. I go and ask for the vitrified tile. There are hundreds of people. Because there is no true cost, they just go mine it, and they have a paid ecosystem of pay these guys off, mine that hill. Nobody is watching. Nobody cares about that hill. It's just got some shrubs on top of it. It's a natural resource. You assume natural resources are unlimited because there's no true cost. No,
you assume natural resources are natural, right? It should be less environmentally impact.
Yeah, it should be free because there is no cost to it. It'll always be available. Right? Exactly. In your assets column, that thing is like always available. It's not even costed for.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one key thing is the how do you now if you talk about alternate materials and things like that, is the supply chain building up? Are there entrepreneurs looking at alternate materials? Where are they tying up with these builders and saying, we will offer this to you as an alternative? Are they tried and tested stuff? Even a few in the building industry,
Yeah.
are there anything at all?
A few are there for sure.
Hmm.
In the last 2-3 years, I would say India has a so many mushroom, and globally also, but
Hmm.
India, I can give you more detail. We ourselves, excuse me, we see new bricks, new tiles, new pavers, new cement, doors, all kind. In each of these categories, there are at least 4-5 material made with waste plastic, made with just solid waste, made with agri waste, made with hemp, all kinds. This company now making with mushroom.
Hmm.
So all kinds of startups are there, and all of them are good enough. They're all going through the labs and getting a standard 7-day, 14-day, 28 test and all. But here's the challenge, right? We work with a lot of real estate developers. There are two problems. One is a perception issue. As long as we keep calling alternative material, it's not mainstream. So that is the perception. I'll not go deep into it. It's a very simple, straightforward. Second, more importantly and realistically, is builders are saying if we go and tell a builder, look, hey, here's this brick which is made from agri waste or a mix of plastic waste. We are directly reducing this much carbon because of it. We should try. So builders say, great, it sounds good. If I have to put it in a wall, show me one building which has stood for 5 years with this brick. And it's a very valid question. If I was there, you were there in this shoes, you would ask the same question. That's one problem of a chicken and egg we are having. Now we are all figuring out multiple ways. One of the things we do is we take some of these products and use non-structural meaning compound wall, right? Such things where you're not load bearing, non-load bearing. Can we use some of these? Builders are open. Increasingly, real estate developers. Now, no matter how much I beat up on builders, and they are really looked at as villains in this space. But in the last 7-8 years, I've worked with so many builders. I actually have some level of sympathy on them. I think we give them too much flack than what they deserve. A lot of them are genuinely interested in doing the right thing. They're really asking, what should I do? And show me a way, show me. And by the way, they are not averse to spending that little extra money. You would be surprised to hear that. Of course, the sample space is not too big, but whatever we have seen, I have not heard a builder come and say, I don't want to spend that extra 100 rupees. They tell me, what do I get for that? So if we go and show an alternative material, they are very open. They're sitting and discussing. We recently with a builder in Bangalore and one in Kochi also. They were so willing that on the site we tested a new material. So folks like us are involved working with them, and so they are open. Is it fast enough? Not yet. The kind of material which are mushrooming are good. They should grow. I think more and more of us are trying to mainstream them. The challenges are these. Buyers, I think, if they are made aware with the right information, they wouldn't question it. It's the builder and the structural engineer who are the most scared because their neck is online, and quite rightly so. I cannot argue. But we go and show them enough information, simulation. Technology helps a lot here. You do simulations, you do stress assessment studies. All that is helping them. It is India is on a nice upward curve. Anybody has a good product. I would say the number of options are so many. And Bangalore again is being a leader in adopting this.
But how much of this should also be with the consumer? Because, of course, the builders don't want to put something that they get flack for later on. So they would want to be careful about testing things and before putting it out there. But like you said, technology has helped us test it, stress test things, and simulate things and do. But how much of awareness is there amongst the consumers? Because if you look at it, we all want this gentrified. 17 years ago, when this mud block housing was being put up with all these things, my mom was like, what kind of a house is this? Don't you have ones with white colored walls on them?
Right.
And people were coming in and saying, why did you move into an unfinished house? I was like, no, this house looks like this. It's not unfinished. This is the final one.
This
I
is the
mean,
final model.
yeah, I mean, we put trust in it 17 years ago and it has withstood. I mean, you would
Yeah.
question there are 20,000 houses like this
Right, right, right.
that are around town. So there must be some time frame for popularizing as well. But how much do consumers really know? I don't see people buying apartments based on any of these things. I don't know if we even know how to ask, how does your building rate on? I mean, if somebody says we are IGBC rated and LEED Platinum, use some of these acronyms. We don't know enough about that to say,
Yeah, yeah.
am I living in an energy efficient building? Am I
Right.
living in something with less embodied energy in it? We don't even know those terms. How much
Yeah.
should the user know? What is the buyer supposed to be looking for? Or should they just trust the builder and say, I buy what I buy, it's only the cost? Because the
Mm.
price we pay, it doesn't include the true cost, no?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I agree. So here's the thing, right? So there are two, three things. First and foremost, like you said, right? The term is kacha and pakka.
hmm.
Kacha house is what everybody thought your house was. Pakka house is this my wall. Right behind is what is termed as a pakka wall. And it's a very sad thing. The way the narrative has been is pakka house is a real house.
Yeah.
Kacha house is whatever. Anyway, a little. I'll go a little technical, but I think it'll help. Is what you're asking about a consumer knowing, right?
Hmm.
The environmental impact from a carbon point of view
Hmm.
for any building and not just building anything, right? This pen also has the same thing. Is there is embodied and there's operational. Embodied is a one-time expense into making the house, all the mud, bricks, steel, cement, etc., which I said 85-90%, making this pen, all the energy to deliver it, deploy it, all that is called as your embodied carbon, which is a one-time expense. Right? Today, it's about 35. The breakup is 35-40% of the building is embodied carbon. 60 to 65% is your operational carbon, which is right now lights are on, fan is on, you have light, we have this internet to use at the houses, right? That becomes your operational carbon. The 53 years you keep using energy, right? If it's a car, every week you pour petrol into it, while the making of the car is embodied carbon. All the petrol for the next 10 years of using the car is operational carbon. Why I have given this background is operational carbon is the use life of the lifetime of the building's use is your operational carbon of the building, which directly impacts your electricity bill and water bill. If I'm living in this house now, I have light and fan and water, base generated. All this is my maintenance cost. So if the entire house is on solar, my light, fan, my electricity bill is gone. So from a environment point of view, because it's on solar, the operational carbon of the building is almost zero. But because as a tenant, because of entirely running on solar, tenant owner doesn't matter. Because I'm a resident here, my electricity bills are almost zero. So the direct tangible financial benefit of living in a sustainable house for the buyer is coming from when the operational carbon focus is there. So what is that? Your services, your energy systems, your water systems, etc., which becomes the services of the building. That's the part where the buyer is not only interested. I'll give you umpteen examples where they actually willingly pay extra to get the benefit. Like I said, the t-shirt or food and all. We have example of projects in Bangalore where the builder could sell really well, showcasing sustainability and selling because there's enough data, smarter than most of the world, very tangibly showcase that here the builder spent 100 rupees extra on per square feet on the project, which has realized in your maintenance cost reducing by 30%. Where you would have spent 6 rupees per square feet, now you'll spend only 4 rupees 20 paise per square feet. So that's it. Coming to material though, which becomes your embodied carbon, because what goes into making the building, the cement, the steel, the concrete, the brick, etc., which is 35-40%, I said, the rest is operational. That part, whatever it is, I don't gain anything. Loosely. Actually, the truth is, the kind of material which goes into making the wall, meaning some bricks can be more breathable bricks, some bricks will be less breathable. So the cement and all that. I mean, not to get too scientific, but the way the facade, the building is designed, the thermal heat difference between the ambient temperature inside the building and outside can vary, right? Now, there are buildings where if it's outside 35, you can have 28 inside. But if it's 35 outside, you can have 32 inside. That 4 degrees is a huge difference. And just for your listeners or consumers, every degree, your electricity bill goes up roughly by 4%.
Wow.
So, for example, if inside temperature right now is, let's say, 28 degrees, and if I set my thermostat of air conditioner, if I have air conditioner, at 24, so that 4 degrees it is reducing. So, if let's say it's 29 outside, or if I set it at 23, then 1 degree it went up, right? It has to reduce by 1 more degree. If I have to reduce by 1 more degree, that means 4% extra energy I'll use. So just for people to understand, that's why what temperature you set your thermostat is important. Same way, how well your wall is designed so the external heat doesn't come inside your house, or vice versa in cold also. That is very critical. But other than that, your tile, your windows, your doors and all, which is all your embodied carbon, where your alternative material go, the buyer has actually no gain.
No gain. It has to reflect in the operational cost.
So I'm giving you all that to say why the buyer knowing the material is good. We should tell them. We work with builders. We always tell them, but it doesn't translate on the bottom line, right? So it is a lot more difficult for the buyer to understand that, hey, this building was built with a lot more alternative, good, sustainable, low embodied carbon material. But vast majority of buyers will be like, so are we saving my maintenance cost? But I am a big believer that we should communicate with them. Everybody hears the term currently net zero. We know net and zero don't even go together.
I know.
But everybody, all the buyers hear the term net zero. Builders are, as you earlier said, right? Builders are beginning to talk their language, saying, you live here, you're living in a net zero house, or you live here, your environmental impact reduce, etc. And one of the language of net zero is offsetting and using better material. In our limited experience with some of the builders and their buyers, they have asked, and we've informed this to builders, saying a lesser. So it does happen, but it's still early days. That's what I would say.
For people who live, their operational expenses is more interesting, because if you put a really low embodied material which ends up costing the person who's living inside a lot more, they're not going to be quite impressed by it. So we also have to know how the material we use translates into lower operational energy, which has to be ultimately, if that is 60% and you save a lot, you're still able to do something. In all of these things, with the buyer knowing certain things and the builder being able to quantify that in operational carbon terms and operational energy savings and things, where does this whole government fit in? Because they are the one issuing licenses today, right? For them, it is just, if you look at the city corporations which actually provide the occupancy certificate and enable the building itself by offering the land, and then getting property tax and all of those things, they seem to be the least capable of managing this. It is so entropic for them in, let me just stick to the space on the site, whatever setbacks and this simple things, and let's be done with it. There's just too much of complications if you and me can't understand, and we have to spend so much. What do you think a group C&D officer somewhere who is signing on some file is going to understand? There seems to be some capacity. I don't even know. We all like capacity building in government, but I don't even know if they're capable of absorbing it. It's the institutional way of working with builders to incentivize them to do better. That thing is broken. Is there any hope for that at all?
Yeah. So again, like I said, right, there are a lot of builders who will go and say, I'll do something, but most of them have this, most of the officers will be like, I don't want to. Let's do one thing. Let's not even go to the corruption side. I'll put that aside, right? In the system of understanding, if a builder is saying, look, there is a sustainable design I want to use and will you approve? A lot of dilly-dallying happens. Builders are not, the officers are questioning, should I approve this or not? And you're right, a part is because they don't understand. We've gone to meetings where we have to sit and explain to them, this is an innovative way of treating water. It's not going to pollute. Here's the state, here's the data and all, right? And they're very skeptical. This is almost, I'll give a very weird but a very powerful example is about 4 years ago, I think, American Congress, right? Congress Technical Committee invited IIT, Information Technology Committee, which had a bunch of senators and congressmen in the average age of 70, 72.
I know.
Some of them are 78. Invited Tim Cook, Mark Zuckerberg, and Sundar Pichai for a hearing about data privacy and all that. The questions they asked, they became memes because these guys don't understand. They'll say geofencing. And you can't even blame them, right? You have a 78-year-old gentleman who's genuinely probably interested, Papa. He would. It is the same situation here. The guys who are asking questions, they won't understand. You can't sit and say this is going to reduce embodied carbon by 20%. It meets all your requirements of the structural integrity of the building. This is how it is going to be. Structural engineer has signed off. So we have two extreme of the officers we see. Some who genuinely listen, they might understand or not understand if you terms. Others will simply figure out a way. Your structural engineer has signed, and they'll sign and walk away. And so either case is not good enough. We need to definitely get into it. I think how the role of government here is critical. You can't blame them. I'm a firm believer that policy is always going to lag behind innovation, right? Innovation will happen in spite of policy. Policy is here coming to normalize. All we can do, and again, climate action plans of Bangalore and some places where we invite them. So I'm invited actually 2 weeks from now to talk with the Telangana Urban Development Authority. They're having a Hyderabad future plan or something where they're inviting industry people, which other urban development authorities do. We should figure out a symbiotic, bidirectional. Like imagine a project design is finalized. We call the local BDA person to say, we want you to sit in the last 2 hours of our meeting. Listen to what all we have finalized, the builder is approving in spending money. I think that has to be done. Otherwise, capacity planning are useless. Because I think no matter how I'm making a blanket statement. I take it back. I won't say useless, but the effectiveness is low.
Of course, you'll come eat the cashews and then go away.
Yeah, exactly. Versus if you involve them, it's like how we say, right? Learning, internship, apprenticeship kind of a thing. We reverse it. We say, you come spend time with us. We are making a huge developer who's doing 30, 40 projects. Bangalore has a few of them. Every once in a while, they invite these officers to come sit in our office. We're making these decisions. You come to our office, it is okay, we'll open it. That symbiotic relationship is something I used to always think, why don't we do? Architects also could do the same. If we bring those stakeholders where we bring the government in strategically in a way where they can grow, I think that's the best way they'll learn. Because their learning will do one thing, which is hasten the adoption. Once the initial Bangalore has... So I don't know if you know this, Bangalore has the highest number of earth houses in the country as a city.
Really? Somebody told me.
1,000 houses we have. 1,000 earth houses we have. No other city of this size in the country has that. And earth houses approval is not a joke, right? You're doing a lot of innovative ideas and all that. So there are officers also that means who are interested. It's a matter of connecting the dot and say, hey, come sit with us. We are doing this new change. I always feel that is that kind of a collaborative approach we should take.
Most of the places where innovation has happened and we've been able to move forward is where the government has sat back and not understood what's going on and then just let us go. And most usually in the building sector, you know how get by. Just pay them what they want and keep doing things.
That part, right, where pay them and go. Here's the scale part of that, though. The growth rate of India should scare us. So Bangalore only, if you take it, by 2031 April, Bangalore is supposed to become a 20 million city.
Yeah, 2.5 crores.
Right? Today we are 14. That means, which means we're saying each year we want to get 1 million people into the city. They will somehow sign off is not going to cut it for us. That is why some of the urban plan challenges, in spite of all the aware citizens, there's no city like Bangalore in terms of citizen awareness. Yet the city has all these challenges, right? So it's scary if we do not have them involved. And they'll sign a lot of builders. It's like a city like Mumbai. Some of the builders we've seen there, I'll get it done. They're not even. They're openly saying it doesn't matter because they just don't have time. And here I always joke that Bangalore is paralysis by analysis. No decision moves ahead because forever we are thinking. We need a middle path. I think I think Bangalore is I mean, I know you didn't ask me to just talk about Bangalore, but I feel like there's an opportunity here where there are more conscious citizens, more conscious builders, and I would like to believe more conscious government officials.
Other than the last part, I agree with the first two for sure. No, but we can disagree. But I do think there are a few. They mean well, even on the government side, but they're just saying, "Don't bother with me with this. I don't know what it is." Just
yeah, that could be a quantity of people issue, not a capability issue.
I
Like
don't
there might
know.
be
I
some
don't know.
capability. Do we have enough people working there? I always feel they're always, and I know this. I don't know if it is true or not. I don't know ratio of how many government employees are there per ward or something. But whenever I go to any office, they always seem overworked. They look like that because everybody's desk has these many papers. I don't know if they're overworked, underworked. Is it true the way we see in media where they're going for 10 o'clock chai, 12:30 lunch?
No, that's not happening in some of the big cities. Bangalore, for sure, I have seen a lot of officers overwork from ground up. That's one of the reasons why when the movement happens slowly and there is accountability and there is skepticism and there is lack of information, they just want to CYA everywhere, just cover your ass. Don't get into sticky situations. Compliance more than outcomes. Just do what you want. But so
better reject than approve. That's a better thing.
Better reject than approve. When in doubt, wait it out.
When in doubt, reject. Yeah. That's what technology. I'm a firm believer tech will help in a lot of these things.
Hopefully.
It'll make things easy. Transparency, monitoring will come. IoT in the building sector. If there is one thing I can pitch to anybody in the schedule of material, we should make sensors mandate. And I'll tell you why also, okay? A very simple but a very powerful pitch. This is what I'm going to talk there also. I think today we have enough sensor companies in the country doing very smart measuring for water, energy, etc. Right? But the buyer will say, why do I need it? My water bill is 300 rupees. Why should I pay 80 rupees? The cost of these sensors is not extremely cheap. It is expensive. The startup or the company which has started is under extreme pressure to sell a lot. Builder is saying, but why should I pay for it? The startups are then figuring out alternative revenue models where they say, you only pay some capital, then I'll take monthly from residents.
Yeah.
Residents after 2-3 months will say, why should I pay for it? I've already reached 200 rupees my water bill has reduced by. It won't go any down further. Now I don't need so they stop paying. I think we should get away from all that. I think we should come to a point, government should come in and say, as part of a building code is the national building code, right? Into that, if like they're saying a 2-bedroom house should have so many taps, we should say so many sensors are part of it. So if a builder is thinking 2,500 rupees per square feet is my cost of construction, into that the sensor cost should come in. It should become mandate. Why? Because if the sensors are there, then I can very confidently say how the building is actually performing. Energy and water. Today, you'll design it as well as you want. You don't have any enough data. Smart meters is still a small percentage of buildings have. It is being mandated over country. It's not there as yet. Many cities don't do it. I actually do not know how well the building is performing. How do I know their water usage for kitchen versus nothing is known. If the sensors are made ubiquitous and they're mandated, the startup is not worried about how, oh my God, I have to sell, I need to create a revenue model. It's part of the deal. Government actually can have instant, like I should be able to say BWSSB chairman should say, now I know what is currently Whitefield consumption at a minute level. And approval time, I can't approve a new community because the ratio doesn't work out. As opposed to they commission a study, 3 months somebody studies, inaccurate data comes out. I think sensors, that's why in my mind, IoT sensors should become part of building code.
No, it's not just for that. I'll tell you an example from today morning. I pay 200 rupees every month for water. I have no clue how it's exactly 200 rupees every month because I just bought a tanker today. I read in the newspaper today morning that all 20% excess rainfall, all the tanks are full, all the dams are full, and Karnataka has excess rainfall. Today morning's news. And then my sump tank is empty and I had to buy a tanker water. So there is no correlation between the tanks being full and your 200 rupees and the actual water availability at all. You think you have it. Somehow in apartment communities, The apartment managers frantically somehow make your tanks appear, fill these things. You don't know the realities, but the reality is without a sensor, that 200 rupees is a full farce.
Yeah.
Because where's my water then?
Nobody knows. 37% loss we have actually what comes to us also.
Correct.
And on that we have so many inefficient fixtures and all.
Correct. And if this water is not there, I wanted to tweet it out today saying tyranny of the wall man. Because I'm sure that wall man is letting it out for somebody else on the other side, which is the richer side of town. Right? And this is a rich where. So all of these are happening. So you're still in a manual system because it works for you. The government likes that inefficiency. Why wouldn't they do that otherwise?
Yeah.
But let's bring this to a close on how do you see us achieving net zero, getting more energy efficient buildings? Because in the cities which are going to be the largest consumers and net demand aggregators of energy and materials and things and water and waste and everything, it's all going to be happening in the urban areas.
Right.
Energy, of course, we are solving it in a different way. But in the cities, the buildings is going to be led by builders, choice being made by consumers. How do you see this going forward?
Just so that everybody also knows, right? India has put 2 goals for itself. I'll put a 2030 goal aside. It was made earlier, right? 2040, we said we'll reduce the carbon intensity by 40%. Or in simple terms, we'll be 40% decarbonized or at least planned for. 2070, India claims to become a net zero country. And absolute net zero, meaning we are saying that net zero carbon. So that's a goal. So the question is, that means everybody, every individual company, and individuals can say, what do I have, my company or my home has to reduce. Okay. Every one of us have to contribute towards that. That's the first thing. So coming to buildings and net zero, right? Like I told you earlier, the way I would define net zero is we should all have a common definition of what is net zero. Ultimately, net zero is the amount of resources, which is energy, water, material, everything, which has gone into making a building, should and what is going to be consumed in the lifetime of the building should match. Then it is a net zero building. That's a definition of a net zero thing. Amount of resources used, which is energy used in the manufacturing material, construction, all the water used in the construction, and then all the resources which will be used over time should be equivalent to whatever it is. Or I will, to speak in plain English, if you take energy, if I need 100 units daily to run this building, that 100 units should come from renewable source, not from coal or petroleum. So at the design stage, these builders should set these goals. Now, a challenge we have, like in India, is we will more and more move towards urban densification. No matter what we do. I mean, we spoke about Bangalore 14 million to 20 million. You can't help it, right? Urban densification has to happen. Buildings will go tall. So just basic logic is, if I have 30 floor building, the roof has only so much space. So if I want to make the building completely on renewable energy, I can't. For India, that's why what's happening. The grid, thankfully, regardless of political affiliation, because economics are making it happen globally also, and countries like India, which are on a fairly good fast track, the grid is going to become more and more renewable. Which means 10 years from now, the amount of electricity we purchase will be a lot more renewable than non-renewable. 20 years from now, it will be even more renewable. So in the building, remember I said embodied and operational. Yeah. Operational slowly will reduce, the carbon footprint will reduce. Today, 60 to 65% of a building operational carbon is broken into operation, 35 to 40% is embodied. By 2050, these are going to reverse. Embodied, it will become higher percentage. 60% will be embodied, 40 to even, it will go even further down, will become operational, because solar or renewable energy will become so cheap that any new building will naturally adopt renewable energy. So it is a material which is a key part. So to become net zero, a lot of focus should go on material right now. Of course, energy we should do. I'm not saying no. Of course, water efficiency we should do. So to become net zero, a third component is there. Whatever we're speaking is what I call as mitigation. If 100 is your carbon footprint, in our experience, we've seen 30% In a very sustainably designed building, 30-35% can be mitigated, meaning reduced. You still have 65% carbon. That 65% carbon has to be offset by tree planting, green tariffs, green credits, which are the three most popular approaches. Every builder and every buyer has to contribute to that, and the builder and buyer together should make that possible. And as an example is green tariff. Bangalore has a thing where today you can say for your house, for example, you can go and tell that I will pay 60 paise extra. I think 60 paise or 50 paise for individual houses, 70 paise for apartments. I can't remember.
Give me the green.
You can green, right? You can do that. By that, you are offsetting your energy, right? What I would urge anybody who's listening, especially if builders are there on the call or even buyers, is this is all mathematics.
Yeah.
You can get the exact number. You don't have to talk in there, lagta hai, which is a very common way of taking adoption sustainability. There's exact numbers like that. If India has to become 2070 net zero, buildings and the building industry has to play a huge role. And all of us, it's just not on the builder. It is unfair to blame only the builders. As buyers, we need to demand. If we demand, builders will do. If we demand for is, and again, the beauty is Bangalore, I've spoken to buyers. They ask these questions. Can you guarantee me water 3 years from now? Right. So I think that opportunity is there. And so we all have a role to play. Government will then follow. Government is, I will put them a little aside saying they'll come after we do. But the builder will listen to the buyer, and then builder will mandate the architect to do better. Architect and the consultant will do better. So buyer and builder nexus has to be strong. Both of them are decision makers. Everybody else are support system. The third one I would say, we have not touched this, the investor. Big banks and investors will come to builders and say, I'll give you 200 crore, 500 crore. They should say, I have my own ESG goal and I need you to build net zero.
Excellent.
So the builder will listen from them and that will happen.
Awesome. That's a good roadmap, I think, between the investor, builder and the buyer. I think we have a nice chance of shaping the future of building. Thanks, Sriram, for coming on the show and clarifying a lot of these things.
I enjoyed it, and sorry I gave long answers.
No, this is a long answer show. People can put 1.5x and listen to it, but it is a long. I always say each question 15 marks. Go for it.
No, this is good. I had a lot of fun, and I think these are important questions to answer. I'm glad you said, let's focus on the buyer, and I really believe they have a key role to play.